Was it unlucky to be out for a smoke right then? Crossing paths for the first time, sure to be fatal, Condy spied a gang that blew their search wide open. Unready, grasping only small solutions, it was time to go. Their knife would just prick 'em. Were werewolves this slow? And there's always a force, an enemy, so this was just par for Condy's course. These beasts were ransacking the streets for blood whether Condy was present or not. But it was a hunt. Condy's route had put more people than distance between them, fortuitously leaving time to spare. With no magic yet at hand, our lead's target had changed to chasing ambiguity themselves. To turn the corner and disappear, a trick they were well aware of. And the wide, square outer frame of the old gabaret would donate a few more seconds to the cause. Among the 150 separate rental huts bordered in, Condy passed the only one to force pause. Condy pivoted, preparing to push against this door. A room booked by something else, probably locked. Still, one shelter among many along the old gabaret backyard sprawl. This was a haven for those who venture through poor and suspicious journeys. Rough lives plotted throughout a gated community. This shack step held a scent beyond human hardship. Enchanted with a stale air that would suffocate the breathless, this had to be the place. Sizing up an idea they desperately wanted, Condy practically choked on their second guesses. Their blind luck must have been too good to be true. It couldn't be this easy, just walk past Pandora's landmine of apex unfathomable. Yet it was. There was nowhere else to go but remain in the doorway. Condy had to contemplate easing into this realm, and everyone behind seemed irrelevant. The mad dash momentum had been seized. Feeling rather drained, unsure how to move, Condy's jaw remembered to drop. The life or death haste of the chase had simply fallen to ruin. What with this new variable, our lead had stumbled upon the problem, laid out to be solved, yet not in a shared language. A pack of howling brutes were en route. Condy had wagered their guts on this, but the work still had to be shown if it should function. What was the procedure? Condy stood, unable to escape on their feet, their yellow-tipped fingers too unnerved to reach out and touch. Knocking didn't feel like an option at all. It was first practical to distrust that this was even a door, though it probably was, hacked together in a carpenter's boozy race against a summer clock lifetimes ago. Oh, Gabaret. This frame was more than wood, if they were more than dogs. It's a door, a common medium. Condy had figured their way around many before this one. So they eased their muscles, still not touching, still acclimating stale miasma. It was a clue Condy could use. Time as it was regularly served was no longer that slop so frequently spared. Condy inhaled gently while tiptoeing those few inches closer, a leap contained in millimeters. Two hands pressed out as to not startle the inhabitant beyond, and breathe out the stolen atmosphere of a sinister deity hidden in plain sight. Condy does not touch the door. For all that was shown, Condy couldn't help but think they had been played. Theirs was not the winning side. The dogs could lose more. So force, the intent to kick this door in, was gone. Condy couldn't, even with effort, break through it. There would only be a moment that the incoming danger would be anything near helpful. No time to practice. Life was then hinged on those reckless beasts. Surely they'd made it through the gates, giving the final moments to countless incomplete exoduses. At a starved pace prancing, the six amid the hunt laughed. Now, Condy didn't see them transform, but held to a bias that these must be werewolves. Audible and in sight, if Condy could turn to look. They hiccuped and belched from the gut, hacking tufts of bark, turf, and meat. It had not been thought that werewolves would have such a prideless, playful scavenger's tone to their tongue. They would eat Condy on a full belly just to brag that they found the blood they came for. Enduring the little time to think and even less time to see what needed to be done, Condy basked in a last siphoned breath. Condy's hands dared not to touch, but the wood began steaming blood involuntarily from Condy's hovering skin and stamped itself with handprints. A proof of contract. Condy only had the wit to confidently handle 2 attackers. Their sleuthing skills had brought them out to this mess, and to this salvation, but the Reaper had put them far too close to a chaotic demise. They'd fainted under less pressing circumstances before. Condy choked down their own suspicions. This wasn't fear. There is something here, and any more than 2 to the frenzy would prove absolutely fatal. There is no formal initiation for this scenario, but the bloody print might have been the cue. So with minimal effort, Condy grabbed what was needed. 2 hands open. 1 spell in few motions each. They stroke a pocketed match with their right. Instantly, this little fire invoked a small miracle. It was snuffed out by the very smoke it naturally bore. Condy saw the exhaust itself reach out and snuff its source. Good. Next, their left hand was holding a blade in reverse, hip high and pointed away from the door. The hilt nearly touches, but it might screw everything up to make contact. They don't want to be the one to knock first. Taking the hand still holding the match and placing it as a shield for their exposed neck, Condy could do no more. That was 2. Hope that's the answer. Might have been able to add a 3rd with more energy. Shoved face first through the brittle wood, Condy's chin was bearded with hooked splints. The bash should have left Condy unconscious to die, yet a hasty assailant had stuck itself by the hip. Bleeding and spasming, it kicked Condy back to the real world. The door outside is all that Condy could see, and the scramble continued. These 2 nearest threats had become immediately disinterested in dinner. A limping 7-foot fiend's arms reached out to their left, and a shocked other paralyzed near the open door. Poor thing was looking in. Luck be damned, Condy looked out to the 4 remaining aggressors outside. They too could not see, and crept closer, still unconvinced of their danger. Silly bastards thought they would still live to eat. Condy had to move slow, head down, crawling, stump bits dragging. Ignoring the pain and the questions and the anger of their absent feet, Condy grasped every inch as fast as possible. At least they weren't being pulled in. There might even be time to face it later. Our mage was truly humbled and set their head down at the entrance. Have I always been bait? At a proximity that once guaranteed death, Condy was no longer the focus of these 2 trapped werewolves. They were facing what dwelt. They're on a much shorter clock now than they thought. Barbaric defiance sonically overpowered the room. Then it screamed a retort from within the earth, a hidden cavern shimmer to which this thing was rooted. Wood beneath began to shake and pop. The ceiling seemed to sum up its own dust, which bulked and began to crumble. Condy did not turn to watch the battle or further crawl to tempt the others. Head down, there was little else to do but lay and not break out in amputated fury. Violence had removed the Wanderer's options, but hope remained unsevered. The topside jaw of a bisected muzzle fell hard, puncturing Condy's back with loose bone and teeth. The others saw. 3 frees and 1 leaps at Condy, who has now been reduced to the role of downed prey. With haste it thudded, bouncing Condy and forcing a bloody oral spew. This brave one tore its ally's remains out from the mage's back, then tossed the gored ephemera back in. Brave Wolf threw crippled Condy out of the fray, facing contact with this contamination on its own. Tossed back to their pursuers, Condy raised their hands. To levitate, please. 2 bites sunk through the bone remnant stumps just below Condy's shins. The last dog softened a grounding tackle, more focused on further butchering Condy's wounds. Then, and it was hard enough to tell when, perhaps this was all over, and Condy was placed against a neighboring wall to rest. The door is now closed. The house itself quivers dustily, as if a small feather among a hidden tail. Condy's knife is accounted for, tossed past the property. Brave Wolf is placed next to the mage. Husks, yet they breathe still in cold puffs. That stale miasma bellows beneath their breath. It will harden and break forth into a missing piece of misplaced papilla, if only you knew what to do with it. The pack will desert them. These two will not bleed out. Blood won't cross what has made their wounds. By morning light, they will be relieved of life. Oh, Gaboret. Eventually the house always wins. 5-minute punch. "13 pilots due July 31st.